Hello and welcome to day 3, the final day of Embody Your Feminine Leadership. I am, as always, so excited to be here with you tonight. So if you are listening to this as a replay, whether it be on maybe you're watching it on YouTube, you're listening to it on my podcast, or you're just watching the replay somewhere, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, out of your life. So before we begin, like how I like to start all of my trainings and deep content is to go ahead and take a moment and close your eyes and take a deep breath in and release. Bringing this breath down deeper into your body, breathing into your lower belly. Now bringing the breath all the way down to pussy. Just letting go anything that has happened before now, today, yesterday, this week, and release anything that's on the to-do list or needs to be looked at later. And just allowing yourself to be fully and completely present. Amazing. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into the content this evening. We've already covered so much over the last 2 days. So we talked about where we are, where we've come from in terms of women and the patriarchy and freedom and independence and what has occurred for us to be where we are and why now is the time that we're doing the work that we're doing as a collective and specifically for you as a leader. We talked about the importance of devotion and desires. We talked about the importance of emotional alchemy and your subconscious, as well as your sisterhood wound last night. And tonight we're going to dive into really, in my opinion, the heart of the feminine. So again, oftentimes when we hear about the feminine and the divine feminine specifically, it conjures up this image of like goddess cards, flower crowns, maybe some sage and crystals. And all of that is fine and great. And having that connection to your intuition or to a sense of spirituality is definitely part of the feminine. However, the feminine has been really, in my opinion, spiritually washed, and it has been spiritually washed in the sense that it continually takes it out of the body or puts it in the head. So it's like, I want to manifest or be in my feminine, so then I'm going to like mentally try and get myself there, or I want to be in my feminine, so I'm just going to like to call myself a goddess and think that that's it without actually peeling back the layers and without actively healing, embracing, and celebrating your sensuality and your sexuality. So I firmly believe that your connection to your feminine is rooted in your connection to pussy, which when I say pussy, I mean your vulva, your clitoris, your vaginal canal, your cervix could also be the energy of pussy. To me, pussy also means your connection to your truth, to your intuition, to spirituality. And the reason why I say pussy is because, and not vagina, is one, vagina is anatomically incorrect. And I read a very alarming and disturbing statistic recently that said that 9 out of 10 women in this study or survey did not pass a test on labeling their genitals and reproductive organs. Almost 60% of women mislabeled their uterus, and almost 50% of women had no idea where their cervix was. We don't have a word that the majority, if not all, women used to describe their genitals. So a lot of women say and are comfortable with vagina, but vagina is actually the vaginal canal. So between the opening of your vagina, your outer genitals, your vulva, and your cervix. That's it. That's your vaginal canal. That's your vagina. It does not include your inner and outer labia, your clitoris, which your clitoris houses 8,000 nerve endings, and its sole purpose is to experience pleasure. That is it. And so, if you were to ask men or little boys what they call their genitals, the majority of them are going to say penis. Now, some of them might say like dick or cock or whatever. But if you say, well, do you call it a penis? They might be like, yeah, they would have no reaction to it, right? To the word penis. Our culture has taken this word pussy and corrupted it to mean weak, to be something vile, to be something that men grab or chase. People use it to degrade each other. And yet, the pussy, an actual pussy on a woman, is the strongest, most resilient, most magical creation, part of the body. This is one, how we can experience orgasms, multiple orgasms, unending pleasure. It is how we bring life into the world. It is how through which we menstruate. Like, there's so much magic and wisdom within our bodies in general, but really in our pussies. And one of the biggest ways that the patriarchy has really disempowered women is by undereducating and not educating us about our bodies, specifically our genitals and reproductive organs. Because if we knew about our clitoris, if we knew about where our cervix was, we would feel so much more empowered and sovereign in our own bodies. So I don't know if you have seen the television show, Netflix show Bridgerton, which it's like a historical fiction drama piece set in the, I think, early 1800s in England. Now, everybody has their own opinion. I'm not here to comment on the misogyny, the patriarchy, or the racial things going on in this show. What I am here to comment on is the fact that the main character had no idea how a woman got pregnant, got married, still had no idea how pregnancy happened. And her mother, on her wedding night, her mother sat her down and gave her literally no information other than like, it's your duty and you might enjoy it and it can be good. Like, no information. And so this young woman enters into this marriage having no real agency, knowledge, or sovereignty within her own body. And I mean, the show, we see how that plays out and everything. But my point is, that was only 200 years ago, right? I mean, most women still do not know their bodies, their reproductive organs, their genitals, to label them, let alone intimately to feel like they have ownership. Most women, when they were young girls, were told to call their genitals, their pussies, like down there, private parts, cookie, all of these different things. And the majority of women were told to call it nothing. And we wonder why women don't feel entitled to or empowered to report sexual assault and rape or even molestation. Feel like they have agency over their own body, feel like they can say yes or no with their partner. And so I truly believe that your connection to your sexual energy, your sexual power, and pussy is your connection to your personal power, period. And again, the reason why it still is so hard for us is because the patriarchy was built upon us being disempowered, which is why they spent the most time and energy disempowering us sexually. Think about it. So, I mean, I had a woman, this was probably like 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and she was in her like early 30s, maybe mid 30s, and she had a kid or two. Well, there's two stories here. So the one woman had a child, one child. She was like maybe late 20s. And we were talking about self-pleasuring and jade eggs and different sacred sexuality practices. And she asked me if the jade egg would get stuck inside of her body. And I was like, well, no, I mean, it won't. And just to make sure, when you gave birth, like, did you have a hysterectomy or anything? She's like, no. She's like, I just don't know how it works, quote, down there. I had another woman come to me and she had 2 or 3 kids. And she's like, yeah, I don't really like have a libido. And she was in her early 30s. And her doctor was like, yeah, that's just what happens. And she's like, so, I mean, like, I love what you talk about, but like, I really don't need it because I just like don't have a libido. That is not real. Quite frankly, the idea of a quote unquote low libido is just another bullshit marker from the patriarchy to make women feel, I don't know, ashamed of themselves. Every single person has a different sex drive, and your sex drive and desire for sex is going to change at different points during the day, during the week, during the month, during your life. So anyways, getting back to the point, I could go on and on all day about this. We've been taught that really being in our bodies is unsafe. That if we are fully radiant, fully alive, fully vibrant, that will in some way, shape, or form attract unwanted attention and more than likely will put us in danger. And that tends to be the biggest barrier for women to really step into something like the inner circle, is because while all of this sounds great and you want to be a feminine leader and you want to be in your body and blah, 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 there's this like primal fear that comes up that is like, no, if you do that, you will be unsafe, you will be hurt. And the reality is, the more empowered a woman is in her connection to her body and her sexual energy, the less likely she is to actually like be attacked or be hurt or harmed. One, because you have developed such a relationship to your intuition that you can tell right away who is safe and who is not. And two, you have such healthier boundaries because you're connected to your body. You've really healed, embraced, and celebrate who and what you are as a woman. And therefore your connection to your worthiness is so much higher. So whenever I go out, or I mean, I don't really go out anymore because when I'm filming this, things are still very much locked down. When I would go out, when I have gone out in the past, I always get approached by men. Always. I get complimented, asked out, offered to buy me drinks, and I am very appreciative. And I have very clear spoken and energetic boundaries. There have been very few times, if really any, where a man has approached me and asked me out or wanted to buy me a drink or wanted to talk to me, and I said no, and he tried to push the boundary. And there's like one time I'm thinking of, and the other men around me, none of whom I was with, stepped in and were like, you need to go. So that's the first thing. The more connected you are to your sexual power, the more safe you feel. One reason why it feels so unsafe in your body is because of this backlog of unprocessed emotions, fears, and trauma, which is why in the inner circle, I take you through the emotional alchemy process and the emotional mastery process, because when you begin to liberate trauma from your body and from your nervous system, you feel so much safer, grounded, and at home in your body. So we've been told that it's not safe to be in our bodies, to be radiant. And I'm saying that it is. With that said, I've learned and I teach my clients how to have their hand on the dial of their own radiance. So I don't like go out feeling hot and sexy and turned on and radiant and then find the darkest alley at 2 a.m. and walk down it, right? Like I use common sense. I love to go out. I love having cocktails. I love dancing. And I would typically go out alone. And when that would happen, I'd only have one drink. I would always be sober, know my wits about me, park in well-lit areas. I carry mace. Like I did things that also reinforced and reassured myself that I was safe and I was taking care of myself, right? So I say that because, again, I think one of the biggest fears or like places that we tend to like catch or stumble upon is this thought that if I am fully in my body, I won't be safe. And then under that or with that tends to be if I'm fully in my body, I'll be judged. I'll be too much. I'll be criticized. Those around me won't be able to handle me. For you who are watching this, the women who, again, your leaders, your influencers, your visionaries, you're on a mission and you're here to do something really big in the world. You tend to be more afraid of your power and success than you are of failure. The thought and the fear might come up of like, oh, I'm afraid of failing, or, oh, what if that doesn't work out? But then 9 times out of 10, when I walk my clients through processes and we really look at like those fears, you work through them really quickly. And then what's under it is like, I'm afraid of really being in my power. I'm afraid it will hurt people. I'm afraid people will judge me. I'm afraid that I'll end up alone. I'm afraid I won't be safe. And I say that because when you become really connected to your feminine, when you're really in your body, when you're really experiencing a lot of pleasure and turn on in your life, that fear can go and kick into overdrive, which is why being in the inner circle is so important, because you're in a community where you can process the fear, feel the fear, be witnessed in it, and then continually choose to be in your power and continually see how safe it is for you to be in your power. It is near impossible to do that on your own. So in order to be an embodied feminine leader, you have to liberate the trauma that's in your body and your nervous system. You have to heal, embrace, and celebrate your sensuality and your sexuality. So first, let's talk about sensuality. Sensuality is living life with all of your senses engaged. Typically, people tend to couple sensuality and sexuality as like one thing, and it's not. Sensuality is like having a cup of coffee and smelling it and really tasting it and really feeling the warmth of the coffee. And then sexuality is the act of like sex, and not just penetration, but any kind of like touching, kissing, like, right? So when we think of sensuality to me is the gateway to the feminine, because when you're in a sensual experience, you're in your body and in the present moment. If you're really like enjoying a delicious dinner, let's say, and I'm using dinner because it's evening when I'm recording this, and your girl already has like her homemade vodka sauce and gnocchis eyed up, keyed up, ready to go post training. So when you have a really delicious dinner, and maybe you're out at a beautiful restaurant and the ambiance is amazing. So let's do a little exercise here. Go ahead and close your eyes, take a deep breath in. And I want you to imagine yourself at your favorite restaurant, your favorite vacation location, someplace that just felt amazing. And the waiter brings over your all-time favorite food, favorite dish, whatever it is. And it's so beautifully plated. And you can just smell this delicious food with all the flavors. And you pick up the fork and it feels cold on your hands. And you dig in, or spoon if you're using a spoon. And you bring that first bite up to your mouth. But before you even open your lips, you inhale again. Your mouth begins to water in excitement and in anticipation. Put the fork or the spoon in your mouth, and the flavors just burst. So delicious. Go ahead and open your eyes. While I was leading you through that, chances are you are not thinking about your to-do list or what you haven't gotten done today or anything else. Sensuality has the power to put us in our bodies and in the present moment. And the more we make every part of our life sensual, the more we make every part of our life something that really turns us on, the more we're really living from a space of pleasure, being in the body, connected to our power. That's what makes manifesting easier, magnetizing in clients, making more money, creating the relationship you want. Like, it really is this foundational piece to everything. And so when I talk about turn on, doing things that turn you on, it's not a matter of being so sexually charged that you're going to walk around and like hump a doorknob, which is, again, I think what a lot of people think. They're like, oh, be turned on in life means I'm like walking around as some sort of horn dog and I'm just going to jump on anything and everything. No, turn on is really that sense of like aliveness in your body. It can be bliss. There can be an element of like sexual charge. Turn on stems from pussy. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to go ahead and take a deep breath in and close your eyes. Just breathe deeply. And I want you to bring your energy, your attention, your focus down to pussy, down to your vulva, down to your clitoris. And I want you to send a sense of love and appreciation and gratitude. And I want you to ask pussy, what does being turned on in life feel like? So for me, I get a little like zing. I feel a relaxation. This is what I mean. Your pussy holds so much wisdom. It's said that your clitoris is your third brain. You have your brain, your gut, your instinct, your intuition, and your clitoris, because it's actually gathering information and sensation and um, feeding information through your nervous system to your brain faster than anything else. But we've become, you can open your eyes if you haven't already, we've become so accustomed to overriding our bodies, to overriding our inner yes or our inner no, and to thinking, to being in our heads, to really ignoring our bodies. And so that's why I say sensuality and sexuality, this piece, this pillar of embodied feminine leadership, it's not about like finding, it's about healing, embracing, and celebrating your relationship to it. Because it truly is a relationship. Your relationship to pussy truly is a relationship. And, you know, the reality is every single woman has experienced some kind of sexual or sexualized trauma, whether it be overt or covert. So I say this all the time that overt trauma, overt sexual trauma or sexualized trauma is what we all tend to think of: rape, sexual assault, molestation. Um, and 1 in 3 women has reported that being her experience. Covert trauma is things that happen to you, things that are said to you that register as trauma in your body and your nervous system, but you don't necessarily see it that way. So for the majority of us, we've all been slut shamed at some point, whether it be for something we said, did, or wore. Could be from our mothers, from a friend, it could be from a man. Having sex when you didn't want to is traumatizing to your body. So many women that feel numb and shut down and, quote, don't enjoy sex, it's because you have spent so much time overriding your no that your body has just shut down and stopped trying to give you feedback. And so healing, embracing, and then celebrating that relationship to your body, to your sensuality, to your sexuality is really at the core and the heart of accessing your feminine power. So as you move through the inner circle, or as the women who are in the program move through it, the piece of bringing pleasure into everything is fundamental. So I talked about this yesterday, we bring pleasure into the healing work, into the shadow work. And then there is very much this huge focus on pleasure in general. Like, how can you make everything you do the most pleasurable? So when you have coffee in the morning, how can that experience be even more pleasurable? When you go to do a call with a client or a coworker or a team member, how can that be even more pleasurable? When you go to work out, how can that be more pleasurable? And it's in those little shifts. They might seem little, right? So like for me, I'll just give you an example for me. When everything started shutting down here in the United States, God, almost a year ago, like March, April. So much of my work routine is I'd get up, I'd work out, I'd get ready, and I would go work at a coffee shop. I'm very much an extrovert, and leaving and going to a coffee shop, it made me feel like I was more productive and I could focus a lot more. Because when I'm at home, like I will take a nap or like watch a lot of TV or, you name it. And I also love coffee. good coffee. I love it. So lockdown happens, blah, blah, blah. Some places are still open for to go. So like I'll get my occasional like latte or cappuccino or espresso or whatever that makes me feel really good. And then it was like, okay, this is like not really changing. So I was like, what would make my life so much more pleasurable? And I was like, oh, duh, a Nespresso machine. And I was like, okay, but I refuse to pay like $300. So, and this is the other thing, pleasure does not have to be expensive. Now you might be like, Lauren, this is kind of expensive, but just stay with me. So it wasn't like, oh, I want an espresso machine, so I'm going to go out, drop a couple $100 on this brand new machine, blah, 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 blah. I was like, no, I'm going to search Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and find one that is in very good working order and not expensive. Within 24 hours, I found one. And then I was like, you know what I really want is I want a fucking milk frother. Like I have this like really fancy Italian espresso now. Now I want a fucking milk frother. So I did that. So over the last like whatever, 8 months, my daily coffee game has been so amazing. And I've like played with adding like vanilla and spices and all these different things. So I have made that thing that I do every single day. I've made that thing that most people do so unconscious. I've made it intentional. I've made it pleasurable, and it always makes me feel good. I mean, the caffeine always makes me feel good too. But you get what I'm saying? So in the inner circle, we bring pleasure to the purification and the peeling back of layers and the healing and the whatever. And we very much bring pleasure to just every corner of your life. Here is the other thing that we have to realize. We have been told that turn on, pleasure, a sense of aliveness, orgasm tends to come from someone or something else, right? Like, I hate when I hear women say, oh, he didn't give me an orgasm. Bitch, no one's giving you shit. You need to know your body to know how how you tend to experience orgasm. Then you need to tell the other person. So, but because we've been so disconnected. So think of it this way. Imagine that you are a light, okay? And you have a cord. Imagine it coming out of your heart, right? And it has like a very unique prong on the end of it. And in order for you to be radiant and alive and magnetic and do the work that you're meant to do in the world, you have to be plugged in, right? So you go around, most women, all women, go around and you try and plug it into your partner. Except it will never plug in there. You might kind of jimmy it in and you might like flicker a little, but it never really works. You try and plug it into your fucking degrees and achievements and milestones. And same thing, it kind of fits. Like maybe one of the prongs is in there and you like flicker and then like nothing. Then maybe you try and like plug it into the idea of being a certain weight or looking a certain way or whatever. And like maybe that flickers a little bit and nothing. Here is the truth. The like socket that has the exact prong that your plug fits into is your pussy. You just have to plug into yourself, to your power source, and then it becomes self-generating, self-fulfilling power. This directly relates to the sixth pillar of being an empowered feminine leader, which is the empowered partnership. So we have been taught to really give our power over in relationships, that men are the masculine lead them, that you have to be, do or act a certain way in order to be lovable, in order to be secure, in order to whatever. The truth is the patriarchy has never worked for partnerships, like true partnerships. And if we look at relationships, you might have had people in your life, your parents, your grandparents, I don't know, someone around you that's like, oh, their relationship worked really well. Chances are they did not ascribe to like very patriarchal roles of the woman doing like all of the emotional labor, all of the homemaking, and the man feeling like entitled to his freedom and her body and blah, 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 blah. And so the empowered partnership is built upon two partners, both knowing that relationships are the best container for growth and healing, and that in a relationship, your deepest wounds, triggers, insecurities, fears, emotions are going to come up, and that you guys are on the same team. And so when conflict arises, having tools and approaches to the conflict that allow you to solve the conflict together versus be pitted against each other. The empowered partnership is built upon the woman being in her full feminine power, which means you have the vision for how you want the relationship to go. And that is what is required. That does not mean to be codependent, to do all the healing for the other person, to like handhold them, to be like, okay, here's my vision, so like let me do all the work. But it does mean when you're plugged into your feminine and you're plugged into pussy and you're plugged into your feminine power, you're like, here is my vision for the relationship and here are my desires. And I really want it to be with you, but I trust and believe that it's going to be you or someone better because I know that what I desire is what I'm meant for. And, you know, the reality is that most women have a lot of anger, resentment, frustration, bitterness towards men, and rightly so. You've been hurt, you've been burned, you've been betrayed, you've been lied to, you've been strung along, you've been all of these things. And for thousands of years, that has been the case. Your emotions are justified, but it is your responsibility to really work through that shit. You will never have an empowered partnership if you're bitter and angry towards men, period. That does not mean that if you're in a partnership with a man, and this is mainly for heterosexual women, that does not mean that if you're in a partnership, you will never get mad at your partner or you will never get angry at them or he will never do something that actually like really triggers you or creates resentment or bitterness. What it does mean is you are responsible to move through your emotions and to have the tools to communicate in a mature and healthy way, expressing your needs and holding the space for them to be met. An empowered partnership is about mutual support and it is about mutual love. And the only way, so oftentimes women, and I've been guilty of this too, we want a partner to really see us, to really believe in us, to really support us. That desire on the surface is right, is amazing, is beautiful. But what tends to be under the surface for a lot of women, and again, I used to feel out this way. Sometimes it still comes up. I want a partner who so sees me and supports me because I'm not seeing or supporting myself. And I think, well, if he can see me and if he can really support me and believe in me, then I'll believe in myself. And it never works that way. And quite frankly, they could believe in you till the cows come home, but if you still don't believe in yourself, like you're not getting anywhere. So it really is about you plugging into how worthy you are, how lovable you are, your sensuality, your sexuality. Because here's the other thing. What so many women have done and do is you take your turn on, your pleasure, and your orgasm, and you try and give it to the other person. You're like, here, you take care of this. And this is women in heterosexual relationships or same-sex relationships. Granted, studies show that women in same-sex relationships, or not relationships, but are in, are lesbians, gay, they tend to, what am I trying to say? Statistically, studies have proven that women in heterosexual relationships are the least sexually satisfied. Are we surprised? No, right? So a woman who is having sex with another woman, chances are she's going to be more sexually satisfied because the other woman knows her way around the female body a little bit more, has a female body, right? Like this idea or notion that specifically men, but again, women and same-sex couples, this can be true for you too, that someone is going to come along and be such like a fucking master in bed that you are going to be taken to new heights of pleasure that you've never experienced before. And all you have to do is like lay there and show up. No. The only way that you're taken to like new heights in the bedroom is if you have a regular self-pleasure practice, that you cultivate your own pleasure within your body, that you experience incredible orgasms on your own, that you begin to learn and train your body in ways that you want. Because here's the reality, my loves. We as women, we can experience so many kinds of orgasms. You can train your body to get off on like playing with your ear. A lot of it is just neural pathways and retraining the neural pathway. A woman who has agency and sovereignty over her body and her orgasm never, I shouldn't say never, does not feel needy or desperate, ever. And so inside the inner circle, while you are recreating, curating your life with so much more pleasure, you're healing, embracing, and celebrating your relationship to your sexuality, your sexiness. So this includes like any trauma release and trauma work. This includes embracing, beginning to explore your desires, your body, your orgasm, your pleasure, and celebrating it as in having regular practices, which I give you in the inner circle, having regular practices so that you're operating from overflow energetically. Your orgasmic energy is a power source. It's a creative source. And for all of you who are like, well, I think I want to do this and I want to make more money, your root chakra is all about money, safety, and security, my love. So like when we're doing all this self-pleasuring, you're opening up the gates for more money. Plus, your sexual energy is creative energy. And so I teach you how to use it, how to harness it, how to access it, how to use your orgasm to manifest, to create money, to whatever. But a woman who is sexually satisfied within herself is such a better partner because she's not showing up to the partnership. Again, same sex or heterosexual, doesn't matter. She's not showing up to the partnership so fucking depleted, so unseen, so lacking confidence, self-assuredness, whatever, that she like shows up and is like, please see me, please affirm me, please give me an orgasm so I can feel good. Now, so that's why I've curated the inner circle in the way that I have. And that's why I really have put a lot of sensuality and sexuality into it, because to me, we really are at a point in history where a woman being sexually alive, really in her body, owning her sexiness, is what being a woman is. So before there was this idea of like, at home, sexy, but like in the workplace and very professional. And when you own your sexiness, it's not like you show up to a board meeting in lingerie and you're like, okay, board, I'm taking over. And you like sprawl out on the table and you're like, because I own my sexiness. No, it could be maybe you wear like sexy lingerie under your pencil skirt and, or even pants, your work attire, and no one else knows but you. And it's about how you feel. Maybe bringing sexiness to work means that every day you take a break to dance or to like do some really slow hip circles, because it's not about, sexiness is not about what you do or what you wear. It's about how you be. And sexiness truly is a state of being. And one thing that I really want to do for a lot of leaders is help you reclaim what sexiness is for you. And just like I said yesterday, so much of the inner circle, really all of it is about bringing you back to your truth, bringing you back to your authentic expression And one of the ways that we do that is also bringing you back to your authentic sensual and sexual expression, and helping you and encouraging you to play with different energies, different aspects of who you are as a woman in your sexiness and sexually. So for me, like, I think a lot of people assume that I always just wear really sexy, really tight, really whatever things. And today, it's the middle of January. I live in the Northeast. And today I wanted to wear this like really soft, if you're watching the video, then you are seeing it. But if you're listening to the podcast, I'm wearing this really soft, light pink, oversized sweater because that's what I was feeling today. I was feeling like softness and warmth and coziness. And I did my makeup a little bit different today too, with like more pinks and neutrals versus like more of like bold red lipstick. And this also gets to be an expression and an element of how I feel sexy. And again, I think that when we assume that being a woman, being sexy, being turned on, living in pleasure looks like one note, and then it's like, well, that's not my note, you're really cutting yourself off from your full expression. Because there's always something to be gained from trying different things on, right? Like, I don't think you will ever see me in overalls, right? That's just like something I can be like, yeah, no, that never happening. And if you would have asked me like 2 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, chances are you'll like rarely see me in pants. But I've found some really awesome, sexy pants that I feel amazing in, and so it's like, I mean, you'll still never see me in overalls, my body and overalls. But my point is, you get to play with different things, with different aspects of yourself, because the feminine is an acceptance of it all. The feminine welcomes every single face, every single expression of who you are. But we've been so taught to like restrict ourselves to fit into such small and like tightly defined aspects or tightly defined definitions of what it means to be a woman or how you need to show up. And it's really when you're in a community of other women that you can begin to see, like, for example, I had a client, this was a long time ago, where she told me one of the reasons why she hired me was because I had photos and I was wearing the photos that I had, she loved, but I was mainly because I was wearing red lipstick. She was like, I was raised to believe that if you wore red lipstick, you were just automatically a slut. And she's like, but seeing your photos and like reading your content and watching your videos, I realized like, you're not. And it gave her permission to start wearing red lipstick. It's such a small thing, but it was so liberating for her. You know what I mean? And I think that we all have a lot of fears or beliefs or stories of how we need to be in a partnership. Like, what happens if we're the breadwinner? What happens if we have kids? Or how we need to show up as a mother. And it's being in a community that you can bring that story to and be like, so I'm terrified. This is actually a fear of mine. I'm terrified that if I have kids, I will completely and utterly like self-abandon, be this self-sacrificing martyr, and like end up resenting the children that I have. I'm terrified of this, right? And it takes me talking to friends of mine who have children who aren't that way to be like, oh my God, this is a huge fear of mine. And they go, yeah, that was a fear of mine too. And this is what I did instead. And that's why community and sisterhood is so vital. So that being said, we're covering all of this and so much more in the inner circle. And when you sign up for the next 48 hours, you will get the amazing bonus of a 2.5-hour intensive with me. Again, there's a variety of different payment plan options. If you need a customized one, just let me know. The first module dropped yesterday. It was so good, if I do say so myself. And doors are definitely open for a while, like another week, maybe a little bit more. We'll see. So if you're listening to this after, like, I don't know, January 21st, and you're interested in joining, just shoot me a message and we'll see if the doors are still open. If not, I'm sure I'll have something equally as juicy for you. And with that, my loves, I'm going to call it a night. And I'm sure I will see you soon on one of the social medias, in your inbox, you name it. Speak soon.